Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your natal black moon Lilith in the sign of Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. I've already done the house placement for Lilith, so please check my channel for a more comprehensive understanding of this influence in your life. I want to give a shout out to advancedastrology.com and elsaelsa.com because I'm deriving my information from both of these sites. And I wanted to just explain what Lilith means altogether. I confessed when I was doing the house placements videos that I didn't really have a good handle on Lilith, and I still struggle to just say it in my own words. So that's one of the reasons why I refer to websites to give, because then I don't have to say, oh, this is on me, but I do paraphrase things and maybe I'm putting in my own words that it isn't what they want to say. But advancedastrology.com talks about the repression by the patriarchy, which I would say is like toxic masculinity. And I'm kind of being slightly facetious because that's just a term that is used nowadays. But really about freeing the feminine sign, the divine feminine, being free to fully blossom within yourself. Now, of course, we can talk about women and being assertive. I'm recording this in 2022, even in this year, this time in life. But this is also true for men, of being able to embrace that side of yourself without having to apologize for it, and feeling like it is making you whole. Because when we have repression, we're not really, expressing ourselves fully. So, but there's so many more things that I've heard talked about with Lilith. It's about being independent. It's about, standing up for what you believe in, but what you're deserving of. But also, the negative side of things is manipulation. And this is what happens when somebody doesn't feel self-empowered. They choose to try to gain power through kind of like weak sauce ways of being, and one of them is being manipulative. It's kind of like that feminine, the feminine wiles, trying to, that's the dark side of the feminine, is using the emotions in a way to siphon energy from other people, in a sense, or to try to control them. But being self-destructive, sabotaging oneself, and living chaotically. And I think what they mean here, advanced astrology use these terms, but being chaotic to me means that you are rebelling in a very haphazard way that is self-destructive. Trauma is associated with Black Moon Lilith, and I think a lot of people really kind of hone in on that. They talk about the occult, so I don't know. I guess that would be the feminine, which is kind of the hidden mysteries of life. But all of that reminds me of Scorpio too, because they really talk about Lilith as being similar to the planet Pluto in terms of how it affects people astrologically. Shame and secrets. Yeah, that's really like definite Scorpio territory. So I think that's why people love to kind of explore this. And so this is in Aries. And Aries is a sign that is ruled by Mars, the god of war. So Aries, or Mars, the planet, can show in your chart, like in whatever sign it's in. Like, how do you handle anger? So a person who has Black Moon Lilith in Aries may have anger management issues. And that can be self-destructive, because if the person, tends to flip out like that, other people will be, very wary. But the rage that the person feels may be not expressed. And that can be definitely unhealthy, both, physically, but also emotionally, if you kind of like tend to swallow your anger. It's possible that you grew up with parents who did not allow you to, or did not want you to show anger, and that tends to lead to repressing it. And, the dark side of this can be people who are aggressive and very rebellious. They use the word recklessness, they mention in advancedastrology.com. And what I see with recklessness is almost like this rebelliousness that puts you in danger. You know what I mean? Somebody can be rebellious and they're not going to do anything that is very risky to their physical well-being. But in some cases, that repressed anger shows up that way, and it can even be like, the person who drives too fast or does crazy stunts. They might be repressing anger and they don't even realize it. Also, in the worst case scenario, it might be somebody who has a nature that is violent, but of course, I think that would have to be supported by other factors as well. But anyway, that certainly is not going to be the average person, I wouldn't say. I think that if people are constructive, it's using that theme of anger as, it's kind of like personal alchemy, where you take that and you pour it into a cause, and you do something constructive with it. If you're doing something, Aries I associate with physical sports, but especially things like boxing or martial arts, and that can be constructive use of this energy. But any kind of sport that is competitive is, I think, associated with Aries. There could be a very competitive type of spirit here. Women with Lilith and Aries can have a certain masculine energy. Advanced astrology calls it yang. That's the yin and the yang. Now, how I find this interesting is, what if you have a feminine sun sign, like, for instance, Cancer or Taurus? How would that play into it? Well, you may have this part of yourself that's actually quite hard for you to get a handle on, because you maybe you want traditional kinds of relationships. If you're heterosexual, you want that traditional relationship, but you still are fiercely defending your independence. But it seems, maybe even to you, it seems like it's a bit over the top. According to elsa.com, there can be this tendency to feel as if you were not given some kind of support when you were growing up. But it's important, they say it's important to look at what house Black Moon Lilith is appearing in your chart. So again, watch my videos about house placement of Lilith to get a handle on that. Bringing up this idea, if somebody has a sun in Cancer and then they have Black Moon Lilith, let's say in the first house, they may feel like they didn't have the basic needs, that they were not given, growing up, and they may feel that they were kind of like that sense of neglect and things like that. And this kind of thing, with other signs, it may resemble, it may be acted out in a more kind of aggressive way, but with a water sign like Cancer, I don't know about Scorpio, but definitely Cancer or Pisces, the person can feel victimized from that, like they were not cared for the way they needed to be. And sometimes when people strongly identify with that, they can, it's almost like waiting for somebody to come and save them. And so you definitely don't want to get into any kind of a mindset like that, because what you needed in childhood and what you need now are two different things. You're capable of mothering yourself, of loving yourself, giving yourself what you need. So, even if that's true, it's it's definitely important not to gloss over things that you feel are your wounds, but by the same token, not to base your identity off of your wounds. And with this position in Aries, that anger, I think we all know people who are angry about what they didn't get when they were younger. And it's usually around some sort of support. And yet, some people take a single incident in their life and they blow it up to mean that that's the whole of their existence. And that's really on them. Even if it's trauma, if you truly want to get beyond it, then you can do work that can help you with that. In the more positive manifestation, for somebody with this position, like a woman who has this yang energy, that person can, well, this can be true of either gender, but I'm thinking of, like, for instance, women who live in countries or cultures where they are expected to be more passive. You might be that kind of trendsetter, pioneer in your community who's, not willing to settle for that. And I shouldn't say settle, but it's not going to be limited by that. That's a better way, because it's perfectly fine, if somebody wants to live in a different way. But the other thing too, part of this is self-confidence, and this is true for either gender, and self-esteem. So even if there's any kind of neglect and abuse, you still have that sense of self, that you are deserving of whatever it is that you're deserving. You are independent, and you do love freedom, and so you need these things. And sometimes it's important to be able to ask for help. So keep that in mind, that even though you may have these great traits, there might be a tendency to be a little bit too independent when you need help at times. And one more thing that I wanted to talk about is the idea of the femme fatale. And actually, I found out about this from, well, I think both of these sites mention this. And I think it's because Aries is ruled by Mars. Oh, wait a minute. I don't know. It might be advancedastrology.com that mentioned this more than the other site. And this idea of the seductress, they talk about, even, especially if your Lilith is close to the ascendant, that this will be very apparent. Maybe this will be very apparent to others. Because the ascendant can be especially about the appearance. But just in general, this type of person may use sex as a way to feel confident, and also that even almost like a sport where you feel like, okay, I've won because I was able, like a conquest type of thing. And that's part of that idea of Aries as a competitive sign. So depending on other factors, and I think that women tend to fall into this trap if they have perhaps experienced this growing up with seeing their mother competing with other women for men. That's something to really think about in terms of the shadow side of this. Is there a tendency to look at a man as a prize and maybe even trying to seduce somebody else's man so that you can feel that sense of confidence and superiority? So, using sex in a very upstanding way, not in a shadow way, which can involve the ego, is very important. Okay, well, I think I've said all I need to say about this, and I hope that you related to it, that it resonated with you. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.